of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
From Lunga Lunga to Lamu, Moyale to Vanga, Loitoktok to Shimoni. This is Prime Edition coming to you live from Broadcasting House in Nairobi, Kenya. Good evening. I am Mchuma Odim. Here are the highlights. Kiambu governor's dramatic arrest. Anti-corruption detectives arrest Kimani Wamatangi in an early morning sting operation.
Let us suspend everything else, members. Yes. Let us suspend everything else until the question of Kera, Kura, let's adjourn, CDF is sorted out.
Angry MPs threatened to paralyze Parliament business to protest delays in disbursing the national government's constituencies development fund.
This House approves the appointment of the following persons as cabinet secretaries.
A heartbeat away, National Assembly's Committee on Appointments approves Geoffrey Ruku and Hannah Chiptumo for appointment as cabinet secretaries. A very warm welcome to the broadcast. My name is Mchuma Odim. My colleague Tom Boyer is away this evening. Our sign language expert is Susan Thuku. Well, tonight on The Shift, we'll be talking about government communication. My colleague Regina Manyara is hosting the Deputy Government Spokesperson, Gabriel Muduma. Regina, over to you.
Well, good evening to you, to Mchuma Odim. Indeed, we're coming to you live from the KBC Gardens, just as we always do on every Wednesday at 9 p.m. So tonight, we're going to be talking about communication. And as I say, communication is not what is said, but what is heard and understood. So the Office of the Government's spokesperson is central to government's communication. It is also, its core mandate is to coordinate, plan, manage and implement communication of government policies, programs and initiatives. How is it faring so far in communicating government's plan? That is the focus on The Shift tonight, and the guest is already within the building, so to speak. We'll be having a discussion a little later in the bulletin, but now we take it back to Irene, back to you with the details of what has been making headlines. And I'm talking about none other than the Deputy Spokesperson, Government Spokesperson, Gabriel Muthuma. That is the man in question tonight when he focused on matters communication. Back to you, Irene.
In a bit, we'll be shifting to The Shift with Regina Manyara. This as she's focusing on government communication. But for now, let's interact on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 on X, YouTube, and Facebook. On to our lead story. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, as today carried out a dramatic sting operation targeting the residents and offices of Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi and 8 senior county officials. The operation follows allegations of irregular and fictitious procurement that reportedly cost Kiambu residents over 1.5 billion shillings. During the raid, officers were forced to use tear gas to disperse a crowd that attempted to block the governor's arrest. Governor Wamatangi and the implicated officials were later taken to the EACC headquarters at Integrity Center in Nairobi, recorded statements, and were released pending arraignments. Our reporter Abdi Aziz Hashim has the details.
Tuesday morning in Kiambu County. Residents and county staff woke up to shocking scenes. Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi and 8 senior county officials were arrested in a joint operation by EACC detectives. The 9 are facing allegations of irregular and fictitious procurement in a scandal that saw the county lose at least 1.5 billion shillings. Detectives believe this is one of the safes used to store proceeds of the illegal dealings inside the governor's mansion. Over 12 million shillings and $13,000 were recovered during the raid. Moments later, a crowd of supporters gathered outside attempting to block the governor's arrest. Police fired tear gas canisters to disperse the crowd and clear a path for the governor's motorcade to Nairobi. At the EACC headquarters, protesters continued to demand his release as he was escorted in for questioning.
From the look of it, there are a lot of problems at the county government.
EACC CEO Abdi Mohamud confirmed that the probe centers around a contract awarded for the supply, delivery, installation, testing, training and commissioning of an enterprise resource planning ERP system. The 230 million shilling tender was awarded to MS Filtronic International Limited in the financial year 2022-2023.
To ensure that we investigate and recover assets from all public officers within the counties that are stealing money from the county government. And you will be seeing, you have already seen actions that we've taken in the recent past. You will see actions today, and going forward, you will be seeing us charging people and also recovering assets that they have stolen. We will not allow people to keep assets they have stolen from the public, for their own use.
Governor Wamatangi has denied all charges leveled against him.
It's very unfair because governor ameshughulikia watu wote wa Kiambu.
He and other officials were released and are expected to be arraigned in court. EACC CEO Abdi Mohamud has sounded an alarm in the 47 devolved unit, with more governors also being in the radar of the anti-graft body. Abdi Aziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
On to another story we highlighted for you at the beginning of the broadcast. The Committee on Appointments has approved the nomination of Geoffrey Kiringa Ruku and Hannah Cheptumo for appointment as Cabinet Secretaries for Public Service and Gender, respectively. In its reports approving the suitability, the committee, chaired by Speaker Moses Wetangula, said the two had demonstrated a strong grasp of topical, administrative and technical matters related to their dockets. The report, which was tabled Tuesday, is set for debate tomorrow, allowing lawmakers to express their views before a final vote is taken. Meanwhile, the Committee on Information, Communication and Innovation has approved with reservations the nomination of Stephen Isaboke as the Principal Secretary for Broadcasting. The committee wants Isaboke reassigned, citing a conflict of interests.
This House approves the appointment of the following persons as Cabinet Secretaries. 1, the Honorable Geoffrey Kirenga Roko as a Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Public Service, Human Capital Development and Special Programs. And 2, Mrs. Hannah Wendot Cheptumo as a Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Gender, culture, the arts and heritage. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Let's now shift gears to electoral matters. With only 7 days left to finalize the interviews of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commissioners, the selection panel is tightening its grip on the vetting process. On day 16, 6 candidates appeared before the panel at the College of Insurance in South Sea, each pitching their integrity, experience and vision for a transparent electoral process. Ben Chumba has more.
First to face the panel was lawyer Moses Alutalala Mukwana. He called for legislative reforms, citing the country's political structure as a root cause for the electoral body's credibility challenges.
If the parties cannot count for something, we will continue to have the IEBC as a boiler room. It cannot be that IEBC is the problem. Chesoni was here, Isaac was here, Kivuit was here, Fula Chebukati, God rest his soul in peace. It cannot be that they were all wrong. It is the system, it is the ecosystem within which we are operating.
Next in line was Moses Lemayan Oseli, ICT Director to Huduma Kenya. A former head of ICT at the Ministry of Public Service, Lemayan emphasized the urgent need to streamline results transmission, cutting delays from polling stations to the National Tallying Center.
Human intervention introduces delays, it introduces doubt as to what is happening, and therefore if we eliminate human intervention along the transmission process, we will reduce the delay.
Mustafa Mohammed Ibrahim, Deputy Director of Research at the Public Service Commission, highlighted his 18 years in public service. From evacuating Kenyans in war-torn Libya to managing high-pressure government roles, Ibrahim said his resilience makes him ready for IEBC's high-stakes environment. Former Kwale County Assembly nominated member Wanamisi Ali Libondo was pressed on how she will handle internal conflict, especially between commissioners and the chairperson, during a tense presidential vote tally.
If we can have a strong risk management framework, one that identifies, and as a commission, because we come from, we've done so many elections as an institution, then we should be able to bring all these issues on board on what can affect elections or the commission, and how do we mitigate such a risk if they do occur.
Also appearing before the panel were Nelly Ilongo and Obadia Kipkoech Keitany, rounding off the day's lineup. The interviews resume tomorrow and are expected to conclude by April 24th. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
President William Ruto has strongly defended the Social Health Authority, urging Kenyans to ignore what he calls propaganda and embrace the new Universal Healthcare Program. Speaking at the funeral of former Cabinet Minister John Koech in Olbutio, Chepalungo constituency in Bomet County, President Ruto highlighted the significant progress made since the rollout of the new medical scheme. Here is that report.
President William Ruto revealed that over 21 million Kenyans have already registered for the Social Health Authority, with 47,000 registering on Monday alone.
By registering, you are helping us to assemble the data that will help our government, national and county, to deliver on our constitutional mandate of health.
He assured that the new scheme provides enhanced medical coverage, including free treatment at dispensaries, health centers, and sub-county hospitals.
SHA ndio itahakikisha kila mmoja wetu atafikiwa na usaidizi wa mambo ya matibabu.
President Ruto also addressed concerns about medical supplies, announcing an additional 10 billion shillings for KEMSA to ensure direct delivery to health facilities.
KEMSA tumewaongezea pesa karibu shilingi bilioni 10. Tuhakikishe ya kwamba kila zahanati, kila hospitali iko na dawa.
He further highlighted government achievements in agriculture, education and infrastructure, challenging his critics to offer alternative solutions.
Kilimo nimerekebisha. Chai inalipa beta. Kahawa inalipa beta. Fertilizer nimeteremsha chini. So wale wanaongea mambo mingi wajitayarishe kwa hii mtihani. Wasiongee tu hivi. They must have a plan, and that plan must be better than mine. Lakini kama ni kuongea tu hii kelele, watazama asubuhi na mapema. So
he was speaking during the burial of the late John Koech, who died on Tuesday last week. John Koech served as Member of Parliament for Chepalungu constituency for over 2 decades. He was also a member of President Daniel Arap Moi's cabinet, serving as Minister of Public Works and later as the Minister for East African Regional Cooperation under President Mwai Kibaki. Mariambo reporting for the Prime Edition.
Lawmakers are up in arms over the continued delay in disbursement of the National Government Constituencies Development Fund and the Affirmative Fund, NGAF. The agitated members of Parliament who threatened to paralyze business during Tuesday's afternoon sitting accused the Treasury of undermining CDF. But as calls to boycott parliamentary business intensified, Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, condemned the move, calling it an act of cowardice and unbecoming of leaders elected to serve. The legislators have summoned Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi to the National Assembly tomorrow afternoon to probe the delay.
This afternoon, order number 1 is the CDF and GAV. Order number 2, CDF and GAV.
Let us suspend everything else, members. Yes. Let us suspend everything else until the question of Kera, Kura, let's adjourn, CDF is sorted out. No more business.
And we are very concerned as members of Parliament because we thought when we get one of our own sitting in that space, that things will be better. But it looks like things are getting worse.
You've promised he's coming here tomorrow. He'd rather come here after he's disbursed money to our accounts and come here with whatever evidence to show that that money has gone there. Failure to which, Mr. Speaker, will hold him hostage here until that is done.
From Parliament to village administration policy, Coast residents have welcomed the transformative move by the Ministry of Interior and National Administration to introduce the draft national government's village administration policy that is poised to bolster service delivery and strengthen governance at the village level. Speaking at the Coast Region Public Participation Forum at the Tononoka Hall, the Mombasa County Commissioner Mohamed Noor said the responsive policy, which is undergoing nationwide public participation, seeks to provide a framework for the recognition and facilitation of village administrative elders for efficient service delivery.
Play a very important role hasa kwa wale criminals. Hapa tumekuwa na shida ya vijana ambao wanajiingiza kwa mambo ya criminal gangs na vitu zingine. Yote wale wanatusaidia kuwajua hasa ni village elder, wakisaidiana na chief na assistant chief huko chini. So saa hii watakuwa na nguvu mingi kwa sababu wamekuwa recognized, wamewekwa huko ndani, na kama serikali itapatia kitu kama stipend ama allowance itaeleweka. Sasa itakuwa ni kabisa bunge ikipitisha. Yes.
Uzee ina mahali yake ambayo inaanzia katika umri. Ile wazee ndio wako na wisdom ya kufanya kazi kule chini. Kwa hivyo iangaliwe vizuri. Nimepitia hizo sheria, naona mahali kidogo tu ndio inahitaji kurekebishwa na sikurudi kule ndani. Sisi tu wakati tunatoa maoni yetu tutatoa maoni yetu, lakini tunasema serikali kama imeweka hii kitu katika polisi yake itakuwa ni kitu ambayo imesaidia kuimarisha usalama katika sehemu hasa ya Ireland kama kwetu kule.
Glad you're watching Prime Edition. We are taking our first commercial break. When we return, we'll be giving you more details with the clarity you deserve. And we'll also be shifting to the shift to discuss government matters. Stay with us.
Town Express! 20, town! Okay, town, please. Bado haijajaa dere watu wengine 7.
Kwani wazako si ungekulia kwenu? Sisi umetoka wapi? Mimi sitaki mahindi leo.
Wewe unanichia mkate.
Siagusi mkate fubi.
Wewe ongea bora usikuze mkate yangu.
Usishike hivi. Nataka kukulia huko mbali na mimi. Si mimi nakulamiwa ni wewe.
Donda, gari imejaa na bado unasema watu waingie. Tuambie ndere hapo apunguze wimbo. Niongee na kama hapa.
Hakuna volume inapunguzwa hapa. Kama unataka kuendesha gari yako, enda dial *570#. Option ya 3. Watu wanaendesha magari hapa nje na wewe bado unapiga nyenye kwa matatu.
Option 3,
unalipa ama unasuka?
Comfort yako iko kwa *570#. Option 3, Master Genio moja safi, reliable, modern safety and security features. Cheza mara kadhaa ujaze entry tickets zako kwenye draw ili uimarishe uwezo wa kushinda. Mshindi tunamtangaza 27th of April na gari tutakufikishia.
Unaenda maweni?
Mimi sindi na madri nishainuka na *570#.
Inuka na Genio kwa *570#. Option 3.
Asante.
Wiki hii kwenye Mkulima tumejikita mizizi hapa Mathare, ambapo tumejitosa katika kilimo cha mboga na pia ufugaji wa mbuzi wa maziwa.
After high school unapata hakuna opportunities hapa nje. Mume-enroll kwa colleges, mkitoka bado mnaangaliana hapa nje. So nakumbuka hiyo wakati tukiwa bado si wachanga, rais yule alikuwa wakati huo na alikuwa anahimiza kwamba vijana waweze create opportunities au wenyewe nao serikali itakuja kusupport. So hizo ndio ideas zenye tulika chini tukaona wacha tukue na kitu yetu yenye itatupeleka to the next level badala kutegemea saa yote tukililia serikali.
Usikose kujumuika nasi siku ya Jumamosi saa 10:30 upate uhondo kamili.
Glad you're watching Prime Edition. Continue talking to us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 on X, Facebook and YouTube. Now, let me take you back to Parliament. The National Assembly is on the spot for defunding the cash transfer program for the elderly. Social Protection Principal Secretary Joseph Mutari, while appearing before the National Assembly Committee on Implementation, said last month's disbursement of funds to elderly persons had been delayed by failure to allocate funds in the supplementary budget. The defunding comes even as Parliament lowered the required age for beneficiaries from 70 years to 65 years. Here is that report.
Muangalie vizuri hawa wazee. Msiwawache hivi, hata wengine wako ni disables, anaenda na anakosa. Kwa hiyo kama mnaeka ni ya M-Pesa, make sure that hawa watu kama ambao hawezi kutembea hata hiyo M-Pesa ndo wanapata mahali wamefanya nini, wamekaa. But I want to congratulate you nowadays, sasa anapata na M-Pesa, linambia juzi.
Registration of persons living with disability. We've had issues of severe disability are the ones that are being registered. And how to rate the severe disability and this other disability has been a problem, because even people who are blind have really been complaining.
So we want, if all of them have been registered, let them get that money.
In future, once we get good funding, we should be able to make sure that we have enough wheelchairs for all the mobility tools that our people with disability needs. So we will try, Mheshimiwa Chair and the honorable members, to make sure that we have enough that is quite sufficient for our people. Once we get the funds, Chair, sisi ni jembe, tutatwanga ile yote ambayo iko. But when we don't have funds, Chair, sisi tunaumia kiasi.
This is a big one. How many chapatis can you eat in one sitting? Here is Yusuf Farah with a man in Busia who ate 25. Take a look.
There are 1,000 ways of eating a chapati. You can have it sliced and served with beans, or simply pick it page by page. Godfrey Okumu and Henry Otieno are not on your usual lunch break. The two mechanics are battling it out to determine who Busia's king of chapati is. The excited crowd appears spoiled for choice, some unable to decide which horse to back. In the end, 25 chapatis later, Godfrey emerged victorious.
Kwa ukweli leo nimeshuhudia maajabu ambayo mimi sijawahi ona. Mimi mwenyewe nikijaribu na kula chapati mbili ya tatu na salala chini.
Some even want the president to bring the much talked about chapati machine to Busia.
Ailete tu hapa Busia, ichape hizo chapati na tutapata watu wengine wenye atatuonyesha zaidi.
Yusuf Farah reporting for Prime Edition.
From the chapati eaters of Busia to political watch, opposition leaders led by Wiper Democratic Movement leader Kalonzo Musyoka have warned against political intimidation. The leaders who spoke during a funeral service in Machakos County also called for respect of freedoms of speech and expression and the Constitution at large. Here's that report.
An intercessor.
Speaking during the funeral service of Reverend Joseph Nzola in Katelembo, Machakos County, opposition leaders say the Constitution is supreme and that it guarantees freedom of speech.
When nations will tolerate dissent and our own Constitution, which Mzee Kibaki bequeathed to this land, and we are honored to have worked with him, Constitution 2010. Apart from our Bible, while we are here, if we are guided by the principles and values under Constitution 2010, then there will never be political killings, there will be political tolerance.
Machakos County Governor Wavinya Ndeti and DAP Kenya leader Eugene Wamalwa, among other leaders, also vowed to back Kalonzo Musyoka's bid for the country's top seat in the 2027 general election.
As we trust you as a church to move this country forward in the mighty name of Jesus. Umetupeleka mikutano, umefikiria, and we can see you are taking us in the right direction.
Wamalwa kijana was Kibaki's first vice president, but he left, he's resting with Kibaki. But his successor, Kalonzo Musyoka, is still here. He was Kibaki's vice president. We saw good leadership under these great leaders. We saw good policies that transformed our country.
Machakos Deputy Governor Francis Mwangangi made a passionate appeal for media freedom, stressing the need for a free press in holding power to account.
When you attack the media, where does it leave us? Where does it leave the country? They must be vibrant so that they can inform, educate, and ensure we are well guided.
Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
The Transport Licensing Appeals Board Tribunal has ordered Super Metro Bus Company to sack 269 drivers. The decision emanates from a hearing involving the National Transport and Safety Authority and Super Metro Sacco Limited over various violations related to speed limits and non-compliance checks. The tribunal has further ordered the Sacco to submit 31 vehicles with identified compliance issues for inspection at the Likoni Motor Vehicle Inspection Center. Details in the Scales of Justice segment.
In a move to ensure public safety and compliance, the Transport Licensing Appeals Board Tribunal said Super Metro Sacco Limited will be required to submit compliance reports to the National Transport and Safety Authority, Directorate of Safety. The ruling also requires 42 vehicles with speeding violations to be retested at the Likoni Motor Vehicle Inspection Center. Further, Super Metro has been directed to immediately provide minutes and the attendant list of the road safety sensitization of all its drivers to the NTSA Director of Safety. Elsewhere, Kibera Law Court has directed body by design case be heard on a priority basis for the interest of justice.
By keeping the accused in prison will not add anything. The only thing it will do, it will make the process longer, tedious, which will waste now the feelings of the victims.
While delivering the ruling, Kibera Principal Magistrate Samson Temo also released the accused surgeon and 2 directors on a bond of 1 million shillings after spending 15 days in custody.
So the victims should be heard on priority. Then they go home and they relax as they wait for the verdict. So I have granted bond of Kenya shillings 1 million with surety or cash bail 500,000 with 1 contact person.
The accused were further warned against interfering with witnesses with the case set for pre-trial on 28 April 2025. In Kiambu, a section of coffee farmers at Komodhai Coffee Factory has filed a petition against Treasury CS John Mbadi and his cooperative counterpart, Wycliffe Oparanya, over a Gazette notice issued on 23rd December 2024, terming it unconstitutional.
Kwa hivyo tumeona hakuna njia nyingine zinaweza pitia isipokuwa kupitia kotini ndio this gazette notice iwe vacated until a public participation is done.
They are further challenging a circular by the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives that payment be done through M-Pesa, saying it is ill-advised.
Ikiwa kama kuna hisabu inatakiwa kufanya mambo mengine kwa banki utapata, lakini kwa M-Pesa utapata nini wapi? Audit atakuwa akifanya hii kazi namna gani? Kwa hivyo turudishe ile mfumo ya kupitia bank.
Ruth Wamboi for Prime Edition.
From the corridors of justice, let me now take you to the counties. Some grassroots leaders in Kisumu have faulted elected leaders from the region who they deemed to be opposing the broad-based government, arguing that the move would forge a greater good for the country and progressive growth of the vast Nyanza region. Details on this and other stories making headlines in our news roundup.
Leaders affiliated to the Kisumu Progressive Movement Party took issue with Siaya Governor James Orengo's remarks over the weekend, urging Kenyans to demand accountability from the Kenya Kwanza regime.
When the president and the government is willing to work with the Luo nation and the people from Nyanza, we have no reason to oppose or to object.
Exactly.
Because we are all taxpayers and we all share the national ethos of inclusivity and shared prosperity.
In Muranga, floods have wreaked havoc, especially in Kenol area, forcing some traders to temporarily close their businesses.
Mvua imekuwa mingi, barabara imeharibika, hata biashara pia imeharibika. Hata tulikuwa tunapata wateja ambao walikuwa wanaingia kwa hoteli, lakini kwa vile barabara imeharibika, hakuna mteja hata mmoja anaweza ingia kwa hoteli. Kwa hivyo tungeomba serikali na wahisani wote tuungane, tuone kama wanaweza saidia hii barabara.
Separately, the national and county governments have been challenged to adopt a data-driven service delivery model to better understand the needs of Kenyans for efficient and improved services.
As we launch our strategic plan today, it's about incorporating both private sector as well as public sector to ensure that how technology is being embraced in terms of serving the customer and still remaining humane while doing that. So a lot of empathy while we do that.
Elsewhere, police officers at Nyahururu police station have apprehended 2 men found with assorted stolen goods such as phones, gas cylinders, alcoholic beverages and electronics valued at around 600,000 Kenyan shillings.
Tunawahimiza members wa public ambao wanaweza kuwa wamepoteza bidhaa zao waweze kuja hapa katika Nyahururu police station ili waweze kutusaidia katika kutambulisha vifaa hizi ambazo tumezinasa.
Meanwhile, Kakamega County Disability Caucus has urged the county government to support persons with disabilities to engage in business activities to make them self-reliant.
As a county government, we make sure that the vulnerable are taken care of in the society. Notably, we construct shelters, or decent shelters for persons with disability alongside other vulnerable groups.
On education, students under the Wings to Fly and Elimu scholarship programs have been urged to harness innovation, manage time wisely, and make sound decisions as a foundation for a successful future.
This is to transform, is a turning point for you. So seeing you still here pursuing that dream, it gives me fulfillment and satisfaction that it was worthy giving you the opportunity.
Finally, family, friends and staff at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission congregated at the All Saints Cathedral in Nairobi to bid farewell to the late Jackton Nyonje. Before his sudden death, Nyonje was the manager electoral training at IEBC and a columnist.
He therefore played a very important role in making sure that all commission staff are well seized of the curriculum that they require to understand the day-to-day, the rubrics of elections.
For Prime Edition, I'm Christine Matunda.
You're watching Prime Edition. Thank you for your feedback on our social media platforms. Brian Warui watching KBC Channel 1 from Kiambu. Brian Koima watching KBC Channel 1 from the county of Nairobi. Andrew Mureithi, Idrisi Masha, you're also tuned in and we appreciate your company. We're taking another breather. When we return, we'll be shifting to the shift. This, as tonight we focus on government communication. My colleague Regina Manyara will be hosting the Deputy Government Spokesperson, Gabriel Muduma. Stay with us.
Jet A1, cheza aviator bila data bila credo. Dial *892# for instant takeoff. Pepea bila pressure kucrash au kucash out. Aviator bila data, aviator bila credo. Uko na kabambe, wewe pia ni rubani mnoma. Dial *892#. Jet A1, michezobet.com. Cheza kwa kuwajibika. Kushiriki ni miaka 18 au zaidi. BCLB license number 0000664.
Wellness is important in our daily lives so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have. By regular checkup, people don't know they have hypertension, they don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
The Shift with Regina Manyara.
Artist communication, just for your information, is that the government spokesperson office is considered the voice between the state and the citizens. So tonight on The Shift, we focus on how this office is balancing clarity with credibility. Truth with trust in the wake of information overload, misinformation and disinformation. Is government's message getting through? Tonight, live from KBC Gardens, we unpack the state of government communication through the lens of Deputy Government Spokesperson Gabriel Muthuma. This is The Shift and I am Regina Manyara. Before we get the bottle rolling, my colleague Khalid Abdullahi shines a spotlight on the court of public opinion on what Kenyans think regarding the 5 pillars under the bottom-up transformation agenda. What does Wanjiko say? Over to you, Khalid.
Strategic communication is very crucial for any organization or even government. For the last 2 years, government ministries have endeavored to fulfill their mandate according to the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. But the question is, has the government effectively communicated about their plans, progress and initiatives to the public? Let's hear what Kenyans have to say.
It's quite challenging that I think we have seen some issues, some moments that people lack the information simply because maybe the information is gazetted on a Kenya Gazette, but some people are hardly accessing that information. Or even you find that the information has been maybe passed but not to the public because maybe through a channel that may not easily reach to the main grassroots information.
In Geshogo Affordable Housing, we usually have around 160 workers per day. People that have benefited from this project are the Njuakali sectors, where fabrication of the doors, steel, and flash doors have been done by the Njuakali sector. We also have people who cook for the workers, the mama bogas, who have benefited from this project.
Hii mradi inanisaidia kwa sababu watu wa hiyo boma wanakuja huku kukula. Kwa hivyo kazi yangu iko juu, tunawapikia.
Huu mradi umeniwezesha kulipia watoto wangu karo na kuseti mradi wa kuku.
Nimefanya hapa kazi karibu miezi 4. Na hiyo miezi michache hiyo imeleta tofauti kubwa sana kwa maisha yangu na hata kwa maisha ya jamii yangu. Saizi watoto kwa shule hawawezi fukuzwa. Chakula inapatikana.
Na mimi ndio supplier ya hii material. Na kwa wiki naweza supply kama 7 trip. Lakini ndio naona ndio inanisaidia.
Nilikuwa wa kwanza kuweka hii maji na imenisaidia kwa njia kubwa sana kwa sababu mimi kwangu nimekuwa nimeipiga na mateke kwa sababu saizi kwangu hakuna kitu ninanunuaga. Kuhoa ninauza doma naipeleka kwa soko, hata avocado inatoka tu kwa hii shamba. Kwa hivyo mimi kuhusu fees sizumbukagi hata kidogo. Huwa ninanisaidia kabisa kwa sababu nikiingia tu kwa shamba hata kama sikuwa na pesa, wewe ukuje ukiwa mnunuzi, dakika kidogo ninajipata nikiwa na kitu ya kuweza kurudisha mtoto kwa shule.
Mbeleni kuna eka moja nilikuwa nalima, ninatoa gunia 6, 7, 8. Lakini hii lauda wale wakulima tumekuwa na wao karibu seasoni zinafika 5 hivi, eka moja ninatoa 23 bags za mahindi.
Tangu hiyo serikali ya mheshimiwa yule mkuu kabisa William Samoei Arap Ruto aanze kuchukua hatamu, tumeona mafanikio mazuri sana tena mengi tu, maana tumepata wasaa wa kulima na tumepata muda wa kutumia ule ambao tulikuwa tunaharibu tukienda sehemu nyingi kutafuta biashara, lakini sasa hivi biashara ni moja, ni kulima wa mpunga.
For the last 2 years, we have seen a lot of stuff happening, and we've been asking ourselves as Kenyans, is these actions really intended for the common good of the mwananchi? But I think in terms of the opportunities that we have seen from the political angle, it's really been very exclusive. It's been gender blind because we've not seen the place of women in this cabinet. We've not seen the place of women in this government.
This government, ambayo government kwa nao sahi hapa hivi, what I can say, improve kwa vitu mob sana kabisa. At first ilikuwa at low rate, but hiyo pressure mingi kuangalia kwa ground, unajua because many zile gava zingine ziko zinatupa tu do aziangali ground, but sahi what I can say, kwa hii gava ya sahi wanaangalia ground.
Those are the sentiments we have managed to gather from Kenyans. My name is Khalid Abdullahi. Back to you, Regina Manyara.
Thank you, Khalid, for that particular feedback. So, Deputy Government Spokesperson, what's your immediate reaction to what Kenyans are saying?
Regina, thank you. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me. I am honored, as I am, delighted to join with you on the set this evening. First of all, you hear, obviously, one thing that has come out very clearly is, and this I tell people, is that we are not where we used to be. We may not be where we want to be, but definitely not where we used to be. And to me, that gives me the comfort that I need to just know that we are heading in the right direction.
So we are shifting, or rather we are progressing.
Oh, totally.
So you too, you can be part of this conversation. On our big question tonight, we ask you, in your view, what is the difference between public information and propaganda? In your view, what is the difference between public information and propaganda? You can share your feedback on X at KBC Channel 1, on Facebook at KBC Channel 1. My X handle is at Ray Manyara, and we are going to be sampling your views. So before we begin this conversation, we ran a poll, an opinion poll, and where we had asked you to think, do you think the line between government information and propaganda is clear? So this is what we asked you on our social media platforms. And these are the results. The question was, let me take that again. We had asked you, do you think the line between government information and propaganda is clear? This is how you polled. 23.3% said yes. However, no garnered 66.7%, while 10% of Wanjiko during this particular poll were not so sure. Deputy spokesperson, what do you think about this? Why do you think Kenyans feel this way?
First of all, allow me to take you back for, where the yesteryears were and where we are today. Because if you want to know exactly the challenges we face today, you have to use that adage Bob Marley said, he sang it very well. If you want to know where you're going, you must know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And so, I was just reminded the other day, I was having a conversation with somebody, how we used to even do letters, how I needed to communicate to you probably when you're in university. I would write, get a full scarf, write what I wanted to say to you, fold that letter, put it in an envelope, get a stamp, go all the way to the post office, post it, wait a few days, it gets to you, so that I'm just giving you,
where we were.
Where we are and now.
Yeah.
Today things, it's a complex, web of information. Like you said, eloquently put it, it's a struggle that all of us are going through. Not government, not whether you want to call it civil society, all of us find ourselves in this unique environment where everybody is struggling to know what are the facts, what is the truth, who has this truth. What we say today as government, it's checked, fact-checked by so many people. But at the same time, like you had our viewers, they are saying, there are things that we can tell are happening, and we can even track this and call it success. Yet at the same time, depending on who you ask, you'll actually think the government is doing zero or communicating zero.
So now, I'm sure you've come across this question. So is your office a spin doctor when it comes to communication?
No, I don't think we are spin doctors. What we do actually, we get facts, raw data, and we pass it out there. We are not in the business of creating spin. We are not in the business of creating propaganda. However, sometimes we are taken aback by some of the things that we have to counter. And this one I can tell you of contradiction. We feel sometimes, give or take, somebody probably who we can tell does not have the correct information. That's one. Probably you'd like to engage further and tell them, you're misinformed here. But we've also seen the rise of very influential people who are given a platform to disinform. And, yes, it's the reality we are living in, but we also must ask, these times that we have accepted, who is the gatekeeper? Because let's face it, we are struggling to give you the right information. And the same way we are struggling, somebody else is seated somewhere pretty, doing all they can, not to misinform, but to disinform.
Okay.
And somebody the other day was asking me, hey, Gabriel, what's the difference? Every time you're talking about the misinformation.
And they asked the right question, because I wanted
yeah.
to know what specific then strategies is your office applying, to counter this misinformation without appearing to be partisan or stifling free speech?
I mean, actually, Regina, very good question. First of all, you see, misinformation can be understood and not condoned. Yeah? I can come and misinform you something. And misinform. Or say something that I had, I have not verified, and take it across. In information, somebody, it's a good conversation we usually have in the office. Information that you can't use or transfer is gossip, right? And you can do that without knowing. That's misinforming. But what we find that turns into propaganda is the disinformation aspect, because this is somebody who knows, they may actually know the truth, but they'll deliberately make all attempts available to disinform deliberately. So, and that's where things get edgy, because some of these people may be influential.
So how are you countering this?
So the best we can do, and the resources available, is we've come up with strategies. Key among them is the success stories that you've had. By the way, we've realized nobody can tell that story better than one who is living it. And yes, Regina, I can admit that even with the challenges that are present, we are always reminding ourselves that we should not retreat or be intimidated by our shortcomings, as an office or as government, because of the shortcomings within. What we must always do, we must accept that there are shortcomings, even in the locales that we serve. But we must always thrive to inform the best way we know how. Because given that arena where you allow people to deliberately disinform, you're only going to create an army of propagandists. And sometimes, like I said, when you deliberately disinform, that information you may think will, it's like a boomerang. I keep insisting
it will come back to you.
It will come back to you.
Now, you've mentioned two things, Muthuma. You've said that these people, especially on social media platforms, happen to be influential.
Correct.
But there are critics of government who've come out and say that government, allegedly, is also employing influencers to counter the propaganda online. What is your take on that?
Yeah, that has been said. It has been there. I know key people who have been within government and without government who will come and say, I need this story or I need this set of information told far and wide. And you can use people or influencers of goodwill. For instance, and this is an example I'm giving you.
So is it a yes or a no? Are we using?
No, they have been there. We've used people for good.
For good.
I need this information to get to this, particular population or this particular group of people. I can use students of goodwill, for example, and tell them, it appears people are not understanding a subject like SHA. These are the facts. So what you're doing in reality is arming people with correct information, and you can never beat that, because it also gives you, Regina, it gives you an arm to question disinformers. And you tell them, hey, wait a minute, you are saying, you're talking about the 5,000 bags of fertilizer that was bad. Well, the government did not deny. But what you're failing to understand is you nearly had 5 to 6 million farmers who got good fertilizer. So if you're going to triangulate that into a percentage, you will find it's 0.0 something.
All right.
Yet, where we've dwelt on
is on the negatives.
5 bags of fertilizer.
Yeah.
You get.
In communication, you're a communicator. Blood cells. The negative always carries.
Yes, truth before it wears their pants. That's what we say.
Now, one would question that why do we need to have the citizens of goodwill push the agenda, yet we have a fully fledged office that is mandated to disseminate this information?
Regina, good question. We can never reach everybody, even with the mediums that we use. But what we can do is, just like even in the olden days, you will find information was communicated, linear, from the top, in a pyramid way. The authority communicates, it's taken, it's sieved downwards, and it reaches the person machinani. It is the very same thing, all right? Whether you're talking about using influencers, whether you're talking about using teachers on the ground who are able to explain the funding model, whether you are reaching out to community health promoters, to better explain, the advantages of SHA, they are also influencers in a way, all right? So I think what needs to come out clear is we may not pay these people, but in one way or the other, they may be part of that particular body of information. They may know better because they are on the ground, and they can also communicate back to us and tell us, guys, I think we need to change this and address it in such a way. And that's why I told you, we cannot be afraid of imperfections, all right? We are not saying that we are running a well-oiled machine that is reaching each and every person. We would want that to happen, but we also have to be alive to the facts that as much as we try, we also need Kenyans of goodwill who will have that patriotism of understanding that it takes everyone, to achieve something meaningful.
So how do you balance transparency and accountability to citizens, when you're promoting government policies then?
Again, very good question. We've been going through a phase of everything that we say, everything that somebody says, then I've had it. Whether you're looking at it on the elected leaders or people within, the public service, you've gone to a place where you are explaining something to someone, and from the back, you'll hear somebody saying uongo. Yeah, and I know that's something also you've dealt with. And then you start wondering, what have I said in, for example, housing? And I'll give you an example of the place we went in Homa Bay, where this woman was telling us the domino effect or effects of that particular program in Homa Bay. She'll tell us that she never thought she would afford a house. But now, that dream is being realized by her working at the site. She has actually made good money to assist her invest in a one-bedroom house.
So they're positives.
So it's not only positive, it's what I'm telling you, that the transparency communicated by the people living it can never get any better. So, and that's what we are trying to do. When we bring information to you and tell you these are the facts on the ground, we can allow you to counter that if you go to the ground and come back and tell us, hey, by the way, Bwana Mudhuma ama hii ofisi ya msemaji wa serikali, those houses don't exist. Then there we can have a conversation.
We found government having to respond to this kind of, feedback, as you call it, especially on social media. And the big question is government trying to limit the use of social media with the current proposed amendments, especially on the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Amendment Bill of 2024? What would you say? There's some critics who have argued that.
You see, at the end of the day, there are things that will go through Parliament. They will be subjected to public participation, the making of a bill. They will go through the whole charade of how you make that bill and how you pass that bill. But I don't think, I've not heard, neither have I seen, people sitting down to curtail the rights that Kenyans have in using social media. However, allow me to be quick to point that with the sophisticates of the internet comes a lot of responsibility. Regina, because we think it's fashionable to attack government, it's fashionable to attack leadership. It's good to feel as if you're hiding behind a screen, typing, throwing nuisances, calling whoever you want to call, trolling people, putting leaders in coffins and spreading it around. It appears fashionable. But I can guarantee you, everything we do creates a reputation capital, whether we like it or not. The things we find fashionable today, applied to you 10 years, 20 years from now, you will regret. You'll have people, and I tell people, you will actually start cursing government why they did not put stopgap measures to ensure information was somehow managed. Yes, as Kenyans, we said we want our freedoms. It's okay. We do not want our internet legislated. Fine. But at the same time, we are waking up to a realization of how monstrous this resource called the internet and social media can become. But at the same time,
we will be picking up. Yes. We will be picking up. Finish as we take a quick breath. Yes.
There are thousands into millions of young people who have mastered the use of technology, social media, and the internet for economic growth.
We will pick it up when we come back. Tonight, we are probing government's communication, just wanting to understand what Wanjiku has to say in regard to either is it public information or propaganda. We take a quick breather. We'll be right back. Our guest is none other than Deputy Government Spokesperson Gabriel Musuma.